the Zoom video teleconference for the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District Environmental Justice Advisory Group. We are all participating via Zoom. We do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with public participation, but we are asking that in order to have a smooth meeting, please silence any other communication devices that you have around you. During the meeting, all public participants, except for EJAG members and district staff, will be placed on mute by the host, and public members will not be able to mute or unmute manually. Only EJAG members and staff will be visible via Zoom. Audio for members of the public will be unmuted once they are recognized to make a public comment. Now I will call the meeting to order, being the 5:31, and can we hear the roll call, please?
Okay, Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Ms. Baines? Mr. Freitas? Ms. Gatiel?
I'm here.
Thank you. Mr. Brazil?
Here.
Mrs. Vilma? Mr. Helm? Mr. Williams? Mr. O'Brien?
Here.
And I see we have Mr. Cryer on as well. Ms. Austin Tibbetts?
I'm here.
Mr. Liba?
Good afternoon. I'm here.
Thank you. Mr. Cunha is not present, and Mr. McLaughlin.
Here.
Okay. So through the chair, oh, Ms. Dean also. I see her.
Yeah.
Thank you. Through the chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Michelle. Welcome, everyone. So now that we know that we have a quorum, I would ask all of you if you have reviewed the minutes. If you need a couple of minutes, let me know. But if not, if someone is ready to make a motion to approve the minutes of our meeting on February 24th, I am asking for a motion in a second, unless you need more time to review the minutes.
Brazil moved
through the chair-
to approve the minutes as
apologize.
presented. Sorry.
That's okay. Normally the chair can just declare them as approved if there aren't any comments. We usually don't take action on this item.
Okay, I guess then we will call the minutes approved.
And I do not, for the record, do not have any public members in attendance at this point.
Thank you, Michelle. So therefore, we don't have any public comments. I would just make a brief comment. I just want to say and congratulate the Air District staff. I was able to attend this morning a presentation that they did announcing a pilot project that they are launching in partnership with CARB. This is a statewide pilot, and the Air District received almost $1 million, $750,000 that will be used to do a pilot where they will be offering grants to organizations, schools, school districts, or cities or counties that would like to apply to do a clean air projects, basically acquiring air purifiers and other things that would allow people who will be impacted by the wildfire smoke to make adjustments and have access to clean air. So congratulations for this important a measure that they are pursuing. I believe the RFP will be issued shortly, and it will be until May 30th. So all of us that know organizations, groups, communities that might benefit from this, we should make sure that we are passing on that information. It's a very short period to apply, but I think it's very important for our communities, especially disadvantaged communities. And I think that is even more important in light of what we heard and read, many of us recently when the State of the Air report was published, where now Fresno, the Fresno Bay area ranks as #1 in having the worst air quality in the nation. Before, in the past few years, it has been Bakersfield. Now we're #1, but the #1 reason cited in the article that if you haven't seen it, is in the Fresno Bee, cited the wildfire impacts in our region that we know unfortunately had affected our area in the past year. So I think this project, this pilot project, comes at the right moment, and I want just to encourage all of us to help the Air District promote the program. And with that, I'm going to move us to the next agenda item, item number 6. APCO comments.
Thank you, Chair Martinez, Ryan Hayashi, and members of the Environmental Justice Advisory Group. Ryan Hayashi, one of the Deputy Air Pollution Control Officers with the district, and I'll keep my comments short. I just wanted to bring to your attention that we will be opening up an application process for the ethnic small business owner member of the Environmental Justice Advisory Group, and we believe that that should be posted probably tomorrow, and we will be sharing that information with the group members with the goal of hopefully finding good applicants for that position. And with that, I don't have any other further comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Are there any questions for Ryan? Okay, I don't see any hands raised or no one going on mute. So thank you again, Ryan. We're going to move to the next update on attainment plans and rules.
Good evening. I am Jessie Fierro. I'm the Director of Air Quality Planning here at the Air District. Attached to your agenda was our usual summary of attainment plans and rules, and I'll just highlight a couple of things that happened more recently. In early March, we had a workshop on the 2022 8-hour ozone plan. We also held a workshop on our LDAR rules. We accepted public comments on those workshops, but as always, you can feel free to reach out to staff if you have any questions or comments about those items. There are no workshops. Oh, I take that back. There was also a workshop that was held just a couple days ago on our refinery monitoring rule. That was on Tuesday via webcast. The comment period is currently open on that presentation. There will be follow-up workshops for all of these items. None of them are scheduled yet, but they will probably be scheduled soon. So if you ever have any questions, please feel free to email me directly. I would anticipate that we'll be holding additional workshops on the LDAR rules, the refinery monitoring rule, and our 8-hour ozone plan within the next 4 to 6 weeks. Those are the only updates I have for this evening, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions regarding the update on the plans and rules?
Through the chair, I see no indication of member questions.
Okay, and do we have any public and that would like to make any comments, Michelle?
We do have 2 members of the public in attendance. I do not see an indication that they have comments on this item at this point.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I think this
Thank
is
you.
the fastest meeting that I have ever experienced. We're gonna break record here.
Fingers
soon.
crossed. You're on a roll.
Wonderful. Well, we are going to move us to our next agenda item. This is a guest presentation that I requested at our last meeting to be added to the agenda. It is my extreme pleasure to introduce to you 4 students from the Center from the Advanced Research and Technology. These are students from different high schools across Fresno and Clovis Unified. They are part of the environmental science class, and they have been learning about air quality. And they have a presentation that they will be showing to you today with the results of their project. And with that, I'm going to ask them to turn on their cameras and introduce themselves and start with their presentation. Welcome, students. So if you're ready to start, feel free to unmute yourself, or Michelle, unless we have to do it on our end.
No, that's correct. They can mute and unmute themselves.
Okay, so you just need to unmute yourself so that we can listen to you. Right now, all of you are muted, so if you can unmute so we can hear you, and whomever's going to start.
Hi, my name is Jorge Soto. I am a junior in Hoover High School here in Fresno, California.
My name is Yasmin Ramos. I am a senior at Roosevelt High School.
Parker?
Hi, my name is Parker Cordero. I'm a junior at Sunnyside High School.
Do we have Robert?
Through the chair, Naomi, I don't see another student by the name Robert.
Okay, just me and Jorge or Parker. Is Robert with you?
Oh, it's Richard.
Or
No.
Richard, sorry. Is that Richard the
No.
name? No, we don't have him.
We have
so,
one. No, we have one Richard, Mayor O'Brien. He's a member. So,
Yes,
oh, he just joined. 1 second. We'll promote him over.
thank you. And so students, for the person who will be advancing the slides to know when you are ready to go to the next slide, just say next so they can know your cue. Richard, can you introduce yourself, please, and turn on your camera?
Can you guys see me or no?
No.
No? Oh. There you go. All right, got it now? All right, hi everyone. My name is Richard Boo and I am from Sunnyside High School and I'm a senior.
Right. So take it away.
All right, so good evening, everyone. I would like to present to you our PowerPoint or presentation. It's called Air Quality and AB 617 Communities, Fresno. So here, this slide are project goals. Our goals for this project was to conduct a survey of Fresno residents that determine their perception on air quality. We'd also learn to assess and analyze from Fresno's AB 617 air monitors to determine how or if the air quality has changed over the last year. We'd also investigate how PM 2.5, short for particulate matter 2.5, differs from Fresno communities. And lastly, we'd research and compare areas in Fresno to identify major pollutant sources such as traffic, factories, and warehouses. Next slide, please. And this is our research question or research questions. During our project, we came up with 2 research questions and hypotheses for each one. Our first research question is, what is the perception of air quality among Fresno residents? This question is followed by our hypotheses, which is the majority of Fresno residents are informed about air quality and know where to find information. Our second research question is the air quality in the AB 617 Fresno monitors the same? Which is followed by our second hypothesis. There are no differences in the readings of the monitors in the AB 617 area. Next slide, please.
So here's our methodology. Design and conduct a survey to assess the perception of air quality amongst the Fresno residents. So we had discussed with our mentor that we would have residents of Fresno take a time to complete a 5-minute survey. And she had provided us with a bigger survey, and we chose 10 of the most important questions we thought were appropriate. And this survey would allow us to understand what the Fresno residents knew about air quality in their area. And we encouraged teachers, classmates, family, and family friends. And in total, we had 133 results or responses, yeah. Next, please. So our first question was, how informed do you feel about air quality in your city and community? 57.1% of polled Fresno residents stated that they felt somewhat informed about their air quality. In contrast, 27.8% of surveyed residents reported feeling not very informed, while only 11.3% of participants considered that they were very informed. Next, please. So our next question is, what do you think a bad air day means? 11.3% of polled Fresno residents think a bad air day means high particulate matter in the air. Similarly, 11.3% of polled Fresno residents think a bad air day means high particulate matter in the air the air is dirty and polluted, and there is a gray or brown haze. With this information given, we can see that the Fresno residents know little to nothing about the air quality. With the lack of information being provided and shown how to access it, many residents not only will not be able to take a step towards city or community improvement, but they will have their health at risk unknowingly. But what does it mean to actually have a bad air day? Well, we can determine air quality with the AQI, which is Air Quality Index. The best air quality is an AQI of 0 through 50. 51 through 100 is moderate, but it's best to avoid anything over 100. Well, it's a risk for highly sensitive people. Next, please. So our next question is, what do you think the main causes of air pollution are in your city? 5.3% of polled Fresno residents believe that agriculture, cars, trucks, or forest fires were the main cause of the air pollution in the city. The results of the residents didn't differ far from what we assumed the air quality causes are, like factories, truck stops, or truck shops. Using the pie chart, you can see that the views on the causes are very different from person to person, and this may be because of residents seeing one issue more than the other, or the lack of understanding of what pollutants are and how they affect the air. Next, please.
So another one of our questions was, in general, how would you rate the overall air quality in your city now compared to last year? So the results show that 38.3% of people think that the air quality has stayed the same since last year. 25.5% of people believe that the air quality has gotten a little bit better, and 20.2% of people think that the air quality has gotten a little worse, and only 20% of people think the air quality is much better compared to last year. We could take into account that Fresno residents have different opinions about the air quality compared to last year. Next, please. Another question is, in which seasons of the year do you usually notice more air quality issues or air pollution? So we noticed that 54.3% of people believe that air quality issues mainly happen in the summer. 38.8% of people think spring and summer, and another 13.8% of people say summer and fall are when the air quality issues mainly happen. And with this information, we can see what knowledge the residents of Fresno City have when they think what time of the year we have mostly air quality issues. Next, please. So how do you check the air quality in your area? We found out that 20.2% of people mainly check the internet to see how good or how bad the air quality is. Only 16.0% of people rely on just looking outside, looking at the mountain range, and also checking the internet. And with this, we can see that mainly people rely on the internet and just by looking outside. Next, please.
Okay, so the methodology that we're using to analyze the PM 2.5 in the Fresno, one way we're doing it is by trying to get real-time data and going to the Valley Air website that has tabs that are linked directly to the monitors, and those monitors will give us the exact PM 2.5 levels. For example, right now it's around 5. Right now it will tell us how it is at 5 right now. And then for the historical data that we are downloaded and gathered, we went to the AQView website and we browsed through that. And the data we have been collecting was between November 1st of 2021, January 30 to January 31st of 2022. And we counted the days that exceeded 35 micrograms per cubic meter of ambient air. And we chose 3 monitors, which is Malaga, Edison, and Roosevelt. And we were seeing if there's a difference in between the PM 2.5 levels. Next, please. And in the Fresno AB 617 area, the population is around 546,288 residents. The sources of pollution could possibly be the factories, truck stops, truck mechanics / shops, and warehouses that are located within and around the area. And that is why we chose the 3 monitors of Malaga Elementary, Edison High School, and Roosevelt High School. Next, please. The air quality data analysis. So how many days was the PM 2.5 above the 24-hour standard of the 35 micrograms per cubic meter? In the total of the 3 selected monitors of Malaga, Edison, and Roosevelt, there's a total of 79 days that exceeded the 35 micrograms of pollutant per cubic meter of ambient air. Edison had 40 days, Roosevelt had 21 days, and Malaga had 18 days. Next, please. And which monitor had the highest number of days above the 24-hour standard of the 35 micrograms per cubic meter? While looking at the data and gathering it, we noticed that Edison had the monitor. Well, Edison was the one that had the highest and the most consistent number of days, which was 40, with a PM 2.5 levels above the 24-hour standard. And most of the times where it was the PM 2.5 was at its peak was in the early mornings and in the evenings till midnight. Next, please.
All right, so as we come to the end of our PowerPoint, I'd like to have a discussion just over the conclusion, my hypothesis, and how it relates to everything we have said. So our hypothesis is the majority of Fresno residents are informed about air quality and now where to find information. In response to that, more than half of our respondents were somewhat informed about the air quality, but only 11% were well informed. And then we have a 20% of respondents that check the internet to see the air quality for the day. And then our team, our environmental justice team, came up with some recommendations to help these problems. And so the first one, we have increase advertisement of Air District website, and then modernize the content for young viewers. So like for me, I don't really see enough of like awareness or advertisement about air pollution, like Instagram, Facebook, those type of social media. So I feel like if we modernize that, then I feel like the youth could be more aware about it. Next, please. Then we have here our hypotheses number 2. There are no differences in the readings of the monitors in the AB617 area, according to a spreadsheet produced by our mentor. There were days in which all the AB617 monitors had high readings of PM 2.5, but the Edison High School monitor had consistently the highest readings, especially throughout the evening. How Richard was saying, throughout the evening, it was the worst. Then this is a little odd because Malaga has way more factories, warehouses, and diesel trucks transporting products and that produce a lot of PM 2.5. And then we have recommendations for this one too, for this problem, which are our recommendations for this problem was figure out why PM 2.5 levels are higher in Edison than other areas that should be worse. For example, Malaga is a town surrounded by factories, freeways, public transportation, diesel trucks, train tracks, and the list keeps on going. This is why there should be a way we can find out why Edison has such a high pollution rate. And this concludes our PowerPoint presentation. Thank you guys for listening and for your time.
Thank you, students. Are there any questions for the students or comments? And I see Dennis and Laura. So Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to congratulate you guys on a detailed format that you did and being dedicated to looking into that as young students and becoming young adults. It's important that you stay engaged and learn about all the different effects that our valley has for air quality. And you're on the right track, and you guys did a great job. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. Laura?
Yeah, just to kind of echo Dennis, you guys did great. That was awesome. It's nice to see young people engaged in the community and wanting to make it better. One of my questions was going to be why you thought the Edison sensor was higher, because you're right, Malaga should be, I mean, you know, technically should be higher because of the what it surrounds it. Is that something that you're all going to continue to pursue to find answers for?
We hope to pursue it. I mean, yeah, because in reality, Malaga should have the highest like pollution rate, but for some reason it's Edison. So that is a problem and something we should be worried about, especially because there's like kids our age are around that school like every day, basically. So
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for your suggestions on social media and what we can do better. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much.
Great. Any additional questions or comments for the students before we move on? I don't see any more hands. So thank you again, students. You did a wonderful job. And as others encourage you, it's important for you to continue active in your community and passing on. Now that you learn about air quality, you can be the ambassadors for other youth like you, so they can learn more about where to check the air quality and what to do when the air quality is bad. So thank you. And we're going to move on to the next part of the agenda. So we'll see you later.
I mean, real quick, I too wanted to share the district's appreciation for the young scientists here and all the work that they did in working with you and putting together this information, and just can't tell you how pleased I am to see the youth getting involved in looking at this information and finding ways to get more involved and you know, educating themselves, educating others, and you know, being part of the solution moving forward. So just huge kudos to you. Thank you so much, and look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, Ryan. One thing, I know maybe you or whomever is presenting on the AB 617 update, to Laura's point of how do we know if why Edison's air quality has been worse than the other monitors? I know that the Air District is doing something, but I think it's important that we mention it now.
Absolutely. No, thank you for asking that question. So yeah, that we were tracking it over the past season, and we did notice that anomaly. And so what we did towards the end of the season, you know, we did some additional nighttime enforcement of fireplace because it was you know, tracking higher PM 2.5, which during the wintertime, the major contributor is residential wood burning. And so we did enhance that. And then in addition to that, you know, we did launch some speciation studies that we're awaiting results on to try to get a better understanding of where those emissions are coming from. And so, you know, we have several subcommittee groups as well as regular updates at our AB 617 meetings where we talk about the community air monitoring data. And this is going to be one of the things that we discuss in the future meeting.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, students. Again, we'll continue to the next agenda item. So if you need to leave, we understand. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
All right, thank you. Everyone have a good day.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
So we're going to move us to agenda item number 9, which is the district is launching the zero emission school bus replacement. So who will be presenting? Please take it away.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Aaron Tarango, one of the program managers here in the grant department. And I'm here to talk to you about a recent board action that was taken to kind of relaunch the electric bus program here in the district here. we'll give you some highlights of the board action that was taken and some couple details, and be happy to answer any questions you may have as we get into it here. A couple highlights of it is, let me go to the next slide here. The first part is, as you may or may not know, reducing emissions from multiple sources is a key effort to reduce emissions in the valley. As we know, mobile emissions contribute the most NOx in the valley. It's an important element of the strategy in our SIP strategy to reach attainment. Heavy duty trucks and school buses are a key component of that, and also school buses in particular. The older school buses have a tendency to have kind of self-pollution in them. What that means is they're kind of leaky. And so the emissions will actually leak inside the bus, not just go outside. And so there's particular concern to replace these older aging buses in the valley. And you may have read the article in the paper today about this. You may or may not have, but there's a quote from Todd DeYoung, who's the director of the department, where he said, old school buses in the state come to die in the valley, which is pretty true. We have the oldest fleet of school buses in the state of California, and so it's been a high priority for us to replace those over the years, and I'll go into that for you now. Like I said, as leading to this slide for you here, replacing buses has been a high priority for us for many years. It's been a high priority for this board here, for the district board, for the AB 617 communities. It's a replacing old aging school buses has been pretty big deal. For the last 20 plus years, 25 years, we have replaced school buses under the lower emission school bus program. We had our own program. We got money from the state, plus we actually ran the program on behalf of the entire state of California for a number of area districts. So we're pretty good at it. We know what we're doing when it comes to replacing school buses. We've done it for many years. And then we're also currently actually operating the Volkswagen Mitigation Trust Fund bus funding pot, we should say, which is totals $130 million. And in that, the school buses basically were oversubscribed in the first couple of days as far as the money allocated to school buses. So we do know that it's a high priority to replace school buses in the state, not only Valley, but the state. So we do see a strong need for that. That's why we brought this item to the board here. A couple highlights of the program itself. I'll just kind of go into the fact that, the total project's about $30 million to start. That's the launch of it. It will get bigger, but that's the start of this thing. And I'll go into kind of how it's broken down here in 1 second. Out of the $30 million, 20 was for the school buses specifically, and 10 is for the infrastructure. And I'll go into a couple of details of that. The $20 million is for the funding that we use for that is actually community air protection funds, what we use to fund this. And I want to make clear that the money used for this does not affect the SERPs that have been adopted already. This is actually money that's not tied to any SERP, but it's additional monies that are actually in those CAP. We like to call them CAP funds. Easier to say that will be used for this program. We also know that a hindrance sometimes to getting electric school buses is infrastructure. So a big part of that is to make sure we had infrastructure money to kind of coincide or commingle with this to make sure that the school districts felt comfortable getting an electric bus as long as the charging came with it. And so we made sure that was a priority here as well. And then this program will basically follow the established program, the Lawnmower program and CAP program, essentially. They're kind of one and the same, but there are a couple different nuances to those, and I'll get to those in 1 second. Here are the participants that are eligible for it. Your public school districts are all eligible for it. They operate buses. JPAs, which are Joint Powers Authority, where you have a bunch of school districts come together and they operate buses on behalf of all of these schools. One that jumps out here is Southwest Transportation, jumps out for me here in Fresno. There's other ones I know, but that one jumped out to my brain as I speak here. So that's an example of one of those. And then also in this program, private transportation providers that provide actual transportation for children that do it on behalf of school districts here in the Valley. There's not many of those. Those are other states do that. Most of them the school districts own their buses. They transfer their own kids here, but there could be a couple here in the Valley and they are eligible for this program. The big key to this thing is that eligible school buses must reside in or serve a disadvantaged community or a low-income community. That's very key. It has to do one of the two of those, and we will get that through the application process as we go through the projects that come into us. The last part of this is that this is public funds, and so according to the California Constitution, it cannot be used for any type of sectarian any type of religious school base, it cannot be used for that because the Constitution does not allow for something like that. Next, replacing school buses. This is your typical yellow school bus we're replacing here. They must be greater than 14,000 pounds. They must be like for like, so you can't go from like a small bus to a big bus. It has to be big to a big, small to small. It's got to be like for like as you replace these things. The school buses must have current CHP certification when they replace these buses. And if you don't know, the CHP goes and certifies these buses every 13 months to be safely on the road. And we double check that to make sure they have current certification. So if it's not certified, they're not using it. Therefore, it's not creating emissions and we're not going to replace it, type of thing. They must operate 100% of the time in California and be 75% within the district boundaries. So some might jump out here and there a little bit to go to some different events, but for the most part, they're based here in the valley. And then the key to this whole thing, the old bus must be scrapped and it must go away. And we will confirm that through our dismantlers that we operate here in the valley. The second part of that is infrastructure. We know that they won't do it without charging, so we're very keen on that to make sure that's part of it here. And the chargers are pretty standard. Level 2 chargers, the buses are pretty standard how they plug in. I think everybody's seen kind of a charger you see out there for regular cars now. They're very similar to that. The plug's a little different for school buses, but very much the same thing as a level 2 charger you'll see out there for cars, basically. Here's kind of the incentive amounts for the buses. We'll pay up to $400,000 per bus. As you can see there, the max of 10 buses per entity. There's no match required. So basically, we've seen the cost of buses the electric buses range from about $380,000 to about $420,000, give or take. So they can get one less than 400 grand, we'll pay 100% of the cost. If it's above 400 grand, then there might be some out-of-pocket costs if they choose to get some extra add-on things that they might choose to get there. The next part is the infrastructure. We can pay up to 100% of the cost for the infrastructure. That includes the asphalt, that includes the trenching, the stubbing out of the pipe for extra ones if they need it, and the actual charges themselves. So it does cover the entire cost of that as we get into it there. Here's one thing we kind of did that's I think is pretty cool, that we want to prepare for the future for these guys that choose to do this program with us. So you can see the chart here. If they choose to do 1 to 5 buses, they can get up to 2 extra chargers for future. Right, so if they want to get future ones, they can get extra. If they do 5 buses, they get 7 chargers. Do 10 buses, they get up to 14 chargers. So it's kind of like preparing for the future. We want to be ahead of the game there. This program will pay for that. And then here's how we propose to do it. Since this is a launch, it's not the end of it. It's just kind of launch. We propose to do this on a first come first served basis, based on a complete application that comes to us. They must have a signed contract from us before they purchase anything. So it's kind of a standard contract we'll have with them. What we will also do in this process, we're going to have a pre-application meeting with all the school districts, with all the superintendents. We're going to send out everything you can think of to get the word out that this is available, and have an application meeting with them to know how to apply, what to do, answer all the questions. But we've been dealing with school districts for a long time, and they know how it's done, how to do it. They just got to know when and where to turn the applications in. But we will have those conversations with them. We want to make sure we hit the smaller school districts that maybe sometimes don't know when you have a superintendent, bus driver, and a principal, and the same guy sometimes in these situations. So we want to make sure we get to those school districts that sometimes are small and don't have the capability sometimes to attend these meetings. So we want to make sure we hit those people as well. And that concludes I'll leave it there. That concludes the presentation on school buses. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have for me on school buses, but we're very excited about this. We're kind of ready to get going on this thing. We're actually currently working on the criteria right now and the materials we're going to need to launch this thing as we speak right now.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. I see Dennis has his hand up. Do you want to ask your question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Great presentation. Just a couple of quick questions. So the program's already approved by the board, and if the school districts are putting in the orders for the buses, what's the wait time before delivery?
That's the key. It's we've heard anywhere from 8 to 12 months to get a bus at this point in time. That's what we're looking at. It could be sooner, depends on what's going on, but there's basically 3 manufacturers of school buses. I mean, there's not a lot. And we know all 3. We talk to all 3 all the time. And as you know, the world right now, it's probably 6 to 12, 14 months to get a bus. But the key is get a purchase order in and go. But they need a contract from us prior to do anything. So, but we will work as fast as we can to get those things going here.
Okay, great. And then my second question was, how long is the process for the school district once they apply to getting approved?
It depends on how many come into us, but it shouldn't take long. We have to do some inspections to verify the current bus is there. We have to do a couple things here and there, but it shouldn't take long to get them a contract, as we want to make this our priority. We already kind of have the mechanism in place to do it, but you know, hopefully a couple months to get the thing contracted and up and running and going there. Because there's some back and forth. They need to get a board resolution from their board. There's some nuances there that we have to get from them to pull this thing off. So sometimes it's kind of a back and forth. Sometimes as we go through the process.
Okay, do you have a plan for the old buses once they're retired?
The old buses will be scrapped. We have to verify that they go away completely. We actually get it's called a Reg 42 form from DMV that shows it's actually junked. We do get that, and we actually do witness there's a hole in the block and the frame. Yeah, so it's pretty thorough how we verify they go away.
Great. Thank you very much. Great job.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Excuse me if I didn't get the order right, but I think I saw Ned's hand go up first, and then Richard.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. So we have $20 million, $400,000 per bus is what, 50 buses is what we're hoping to get, I suppose. And how does that compare the cost of the bus with, you know, diesel buses? Are they substantially more expensive or about the same?
A diesel bus is, give or take, it's $180,000, give or take. I mean, it's probably up. I mean, that's been a while since we replaced a diesel bus, to be honest with you. So with the cost of things now, it might be a little higher than that, but let's say $180,000, $200,000, something like that.
Okay, so we say that it's cost effective. Are we kind of keeping track of the mitigation per, let's say, metric ton of SOx, NOx, PM 2.5, say per year, and figuring out what the cost per metric ton mitigation is?
Yeah, it's the Car Moyer program allows us to pay up to $279,000 per ton to replace these buses, something like that. That's the allowable cost effectiveness number in the Car Moyer program.
Can you just say that one more time? I'm sorry.
It's the max cost effective number in the Car Moyer program for school buses, I believe it was $276,000. I think they upped it by a couple thousand, but it's basically $276,000 per ton.
Per ton of what? SOx,
Of
NOx,
NOx.
PM 2.5?
Of all pollutants combined, but basically at this point in time, it's just NOx because they already have PM filters on them. Every bus at this point in time currently has a PM filter.
Okay, so it's $276,000 per, and so of course we get the benefit over many years. So to make it annual, you divide
It's
by.
It's a 10-year project life. Yeah, it's a 10-year life.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna go to Richard.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. One of the things, I'm with a local regional transportation authority where we are operating both diesel and electric. And electric charging times are much greater than, you know, just refueling. Sometimes it takes more than the period in between operations where you have to rely on the diesel. Is there a reason why you have less charging stations per bus?
Like, you mean why we're giving less money for chargers?
The way I understood your presentation, I could be wrong. I may have been distracted. I thought you said if you have 14 buses, you'll have like 10 or 11 charging stations. It's still
No, it's always the opposite of that. It's complete opposite. It's the other way around. So if you get 10 buses, we'll do up to 14 chargers.
Okay, that's good because charging times takes longer. But the life expectancy of a electric bus right now is less than a diesel from the current generation. Now, the future generations may be more, and the amount of power you have from the current electric buses are less than diesels. So if you're going to deploy these, they're gonna have to be deployed in areas where there's relatively flat surfaces to prevent overburdening the motors. But again, that could be a new generation of buses that I have not yet seen.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think for right now, there are limited situations where they wouldn't work. But, you know, as we roll things out, hopefully they keep getting better. And there are some situations where they work perfectly. So it's, you know, we're trying and we want them to make sure they fit with their school district there.
Okay, thank you. Just the last one. If the need exceeds the your requirement of low income or disadvantaged communities, you may want to put that out to marginal because you may have more areas that could be suited for these current buses, and then in the future have more powerful buses. Because a lot of your disadvantaged communities are in the foothills where you're going to have a difficult time meeting your electric bus services. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for this presentation? If not, I have a couple. Well, not a question, but a question and comment. So I think I heard you saying first come, first served, and I always kind of like have mixed feelings about that, just because the fact that larger districts that have more staff, that have more resources, are going to be more likely to be ready to submit their application and get all the money. And I'm concerned about the equity here because the smaller districts, I mean, I understand electric buses are not going to be the solution and adequate for every school district in an area because, as it was mentioned before, mountain hill districts this might not be the best fit for them, but there are others on the valley floor that I could certainly see benefiting from this. And that because of the size of the school district that might not have the resources or the staff, or this might not even be in their radar. I'm afraid that they're falling through the cracks. So is there any way that we can assure some sort of, first, that the information gets to them, and second, that we are making sure that there's an equity component so that the money is not going to only to the largest districts that have more capacity to prepare and submit their applications?
Well, one is that that's what we're doing, the pre-application workshop with all the contacts we have at all the school districts in the valley, which we have a very good list, comprehensive list of that. So we're going to invite them all in different avenues. It could be just one-on-one. It could be, you know, it's going to be a big workshop, but also we're going to be open to answer all their questions at all times, make sure we get to all of them. That's a key for us as well. And then it's also limiting, right? The max per entity is 10 buses. So, you know, they couldn't come in and replace the entire fleet at the same time, you know, one district. So that was kind of limiting. And then also this is the launch of it. So we plan on making this bigger and growing. So it's kind of this is kind of launch, kind of the start, see what type of reaction we get to it, and then kind of take it from there, kind of as I learn lessons and kind of move on from there to make sure it is equitable.
Thank you. I see your hand, Tom. Let me just make one comment. On lessons learned, let me just say that based on our experience with the reaction of the school districts in the Fresno EB617, one thing that they really made sure to emphasize is that they wouldn't apply even if the funding was available unless the charging stations were included as part of the available funding. So thank you for including that. Tom?
Yeah, that was a great point, I mean, and I share that concern about some of the smaller, especially more rural school districts. I know that the city of Modesto just got 30 electric buses, which is very exciting. I'm assuming because this program is just starting that was a different program. I know involved the Air District and other partners. Can you, if you can, share a little bit about the different programs that might cover electric buses? Are they, you know, can they be utilized together, or are they separate things? Do they cover different parts of the valley or anything like that?
Well, I think in Modesto, the big portion of how their buses were funded with HVIP, which is the Hybrid Voucher Incentive Program for the state of California, which is actually funded by GGRF funds. That's how most of the buses were funded up there. I will say for that project there up there, we're actually probably going to pay majority of the cost of the actual infrastructure itself. So it's kind of a joint project. We have a separate infrastructure project already going right now, and we're just adding money to it for this program here. But we're paying for majority of the infrastructure in Modesto through that process. The other funding that happens is from the federal government through kind of it used to be called DERA, but it's a little something else. That the federal government actually does a rebate program for buses as well. It doesn't pay as much. The costs are a lot lower. And if somehow we could match up with that, that'd be great. And that's going to be part of the workshop as well, is kind of show them different funding avenues that they could take advantage of during this funding workshop we're going to have for them.
Great, thanks. One more question. I'm curious, we've brought this up a lot before, especially now that Modesto has all those buses, about programs, to be perfect for somewhere like Modesto Junior College to have programs where you learn, maintenance of the new technology and the new buses. Is there plans for something like that, or something like that already going on?
Well, yeah, that's kind of a bigger thing we have going on with a lot of the communities right now. Is it's called mechanics training, basically to adhere to that. But what we have found is a lot of the junior colleges are actually offering those classes for free right now. I know that Delta College is doing it for free, Fresno City College, Reedley College, because they got a lot of COVID money for projects like that, where the students actually get it for free and take those classes now. So yeah, it is available. We're trying to see how we can kind of work our way into it, but it's like, well, it's already free. I don't know what we would pay for on that one, since they can go take the classes, but it is there for them to do.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Michelle, are there any questions or comments from the public for this item?
Through the chair, I do not see any public members in attendance at this time.
Thank you. Well, I think those were all the questions. Thank you again for your presentation.
You're welcome. I think I'm next up on the other one. Can I take a 1 minute break, get a drink of water, be right back? I'll do the next presentation in about 1 minute. Give me 1 second there.
Okay, we'll give you 1 minute. Michelle, I noticed that several of our members joined after you did the roll call. Is it possible for us to reflect that they're in attendance?
Yes, Mr. Williams and Mr. Helm have joined the meeting.
Thank you. Just want to make sure that we have them on record.
Got it.
Yeah, sorry I was late. I was actually listening to a presentation from the American Lung Association about their annual report. As usual, it's a lot of failing grades for the Valley counties, but there was some good news about NOx going down pretty substantially, but because of wildfires and other factors, there's more PM than the previous year. I asked if they would be interested in presenting to the EJAG, and they said that they would make themselves available if that's something other members would be interested in.
Well, I guess we can discuss that later on when we have that agenda item on ideas for future meetings. So we'll come back to that. But we're ready for the next presentation.
Okay, very good. Next is, our update to our tractor program, which we've been operating since about 2009, replacing ag tractors here in the Valley. And just want to get an update to that program and kind of give some high level data on kind of what's happening now and what we're doing with this program. One of the big keys is, I'll start here, is that, in the most recent SIP plan, basically, so I want to make sure I get this 100% correct here, so I don't mess this up. As part of the recent attainment plan efforts to reduce PM2.5, the state of California committed to reducing 11 tons per day of NOx in the Valley with ag tractors. 0.58 tons for PM2.5. These commitments were in the Valley Supplemental 2016 strategy for the SIP, adopted by CARB in 2018. So this is key as far as we had basically, what it boils down to, there was an 11-ton commitment by the end of 2023 to reduce 11 tons per day of NOx from ag tractors. That was essentially the commitment, and that's what we are working on to this day. So that's kind of where this is leading to here. Going back a little bit, and part of that commitment came from the state with some funding from the farmer program, which is from the state of California. In order to meet these commitments, the state recognized that the district is going to need some money to hit these targets. And so, like I said, back in 2017, the first farmer funding was passed under AB 134 and AB 109 that authorized the farmer program to reduce basically emissions from ag equipment, from tractors, trucks, ag pumps, ag UTVs, stuff that operated on farms that was self-propelled. That was the goal of the program, to reduce emissions by replacing those older pieces of equipment. The district worked closely with CARB to develop those guidelines to make sure they worked with ag and make sure we could actually spend the money correctly and get the correct emission reduction credits that were needed to attain that 11 tons per day that was actually in the SIP. To date, the district has allocated about $261 million in farmer program funding for the first 3 cycles of the program, which has been very successful. And I'll show you kind of a slide here in a second that shows you kind of a breakdown of where those monies have gone and how many units have been replaced. And also going forward too, I'll talk about we're now going to receive the 4th round of funding from the state of California under the farmer program, which is very exciting for us to get going on. For the year 4, the state of California, our CARB was allocated $212 million under the farmer program. They took about 1.7 off the top for their admin fees, which left about $210 million. The district, because of the amount of equipment here in the valley, is allocated 80% of those funds, which is roughly $168 million. That's given to the district to reduce emissions from ag equipment here in the valley. And that's been historically done throughout the first 3 phases as well. We received 80% of the funding, farmer funding for this program. Here's kind of a breakdown of the first 3 years and what's been replaced. If you can see, there's over 6,000 units been replaced in the valley. You can see ag tractors is number 1 by a long shot. Ag UTVs, we replaced diesel or gasoline powered, UTVs out in the fields with all electric. The farmers really have taken off to this program. It's been very successful. We're very encouraged by that program as well. But you can see also here that, the incentive amounts, $240,000 so far. This is what's been implemented out there, really going. The cost share has been $329 million. So the total project to date is about $570 million, as you see, for the 6,100 units or so. So it's taken a lot of money. It's been very successful, and we're happy that the farmers came in and were partners with us in a lot of these pieces of equipment that were changed over. A big part of this whole thing, as far as we go, the goal of the program was always to provide about 60% of the cost of a piece of equipment. Was the goal. We found that historically that was enough to get them to change their equipment, to get them to go. Which we get 60%, which means we're not giving it away, but they come in, they have some skin in the game, and we found that works pretty well. But over the years, as equipment costs go up, our costs are a little bit off. Our payments are off because we pay $1 per horsepower, not a straight percent. That way, it's easier not to manipulate it. If you just add the price of the equipment in a straight percent, you can kind of manipulate that. But we actually pay our payments on $1 per horsepower basis. And I'll go into that in the slide in a second, how our payments are structured there. But we noticed in our payment structure, we were only hitting 30, 40% of the cost of a tractor, and it wasn't quite high enough. And we saw that the applications were kind of going down and dwindling a little bit. So we kind of did some analysis of our equipment, analysis of our data. We did some analysis of what new equipment costs and came up with new funding tables to make sure we started hitting that 60% cost gap to get the applications back up where we want them to be. And I will say, since we went to the board in March of this year, March 17th of 2022, this previous month of April, we received the most applications in the history of the program. So this action did work. The increased payments did work as far as getting applications to come into us here. So made very clear that our payments are back up to where we want to be, about 60% of the cost of a tractor. Here is the funding tables, how we do it. So if you're going to replace a regular tractor between 25 and 74 horsepower, the old cost, we give you $300 times, let's say, 74, and that was your payment. Or if you had a 123 horsepower tractor, we give you 123 times 350. it's about $43,000. So they knew what they're going to get for that tractor, and they go shop that money around and get the best deal. What we started finding was that was not getting to roughly 60%. So based on all analysis we did, based on everything we know, the cost of a new tractor, here's the new incentive levels that were proposed and approved by the board, which we're hitting that 60% cap now, which has been very, very successful as we found. Another key part of this is keeping with, with this board's direction plus the governing board's direction was, small farmers. How are you addressing small farmers? So what we decided to do is just pay a straight percent for a farm that's less than 100 acres, which they will get a percent. If it's less than 100 acres, they will get 80% of the cost of the tractor paid for. And during the board meeting, one of the board members brought up that, hey, what about the guy, the mid-range guy, from 500 to 101 horse, 500 acres to 101 acres? What about him? So another category was brought up to pay 70% of the cost for that mid-range farmer. So you essentially, anything above 500 will be 60%, up to that 60% cost cap. So you essentially have 60, 70, 80. And 80% is the max allowed per the farmer guidelines and more guidelines to pay for a piece of equipment. So that's the max that can be paid for that equipment. So we want to make sure we address the small farmers, disadvantaged farmers, underserved farmers that could come in and actually afford a piece of new equipment now by paying the 80% or 70% to make sure that we're hitting those guys as well. And then we're going to work with the ag stakeholders. I think there's one on this board here that's going to be part of that, to make sure we hit all of the ag stakeholders that will be affected by this, to make sure they know. But I will say this, with the applications that have come in so far this last month, they know. They very much know the new dollar amounts that are given. So the applications coming in, and we're getting phone calls like crazy. So it's worked so far. Also, part of this too, under the farmer guidelines, is we're going to work with CARB to develop basically a used tractor program. What we notice is that the equipment's hard to come by right now. A new piece of equipment, as we talk about school buses, as you guys well know, a car or a truck to go buy one now is tough. It takes a while to get one. So used equipment. So if you're a small farmer, 100 acres or less, what if you could get a used tractor out there, and we'll pay 80% of the cost of that, so you can get it on the road faster and go, just for the small guy, And so we're working with CARB to develop that program to allow for used equipment to be funded in this program as well for just the small farmers out there. You have to go through the regular OEM dealers. Can't be third-party sellers. The OEM dealer must go through a checklist, make sure the tractor is operational and not going to kind of zonk out when they get it the first day. So they'll go through rigorous testing to make sure that they get a machine that will work for them and work for years to come as they go about there. Well, so we'll work with CARB over the next couple of months or so to develop that program, make sure we do it correctly, and work with the local stakeholders, ag stakeholders, make sure that we roll it out, that it works for everybody involved there. The next thing I have is advanced technology. Basically, electric tractors are coming. Basically, and I think they're out there right now for the small ones. There's some small electric tractors out there, 40 horsepower tractors that will work for some smaller type farms. So we're going to work with actually ARB to make sure that we can fund those as well. Work with talk to the manufacturers of those pieces of equipment to make sure that how much they cost, make sure we get the incentive out correctly, and then see what interest you have out there to actually start that program as well. So that'll be coming here in the future as far as replacing diesel to electric ag tractors to the farmers that want to do that. It's there. We've heard words about it. They've been talking about us. They've been calling us about that. So we're gonna see. And I think there are some takers, but the cost, what we pay for them, we have to figure that part out with the cost of these new tractors and with CARB. So we'll figure that process out with CARB as the couple months go on here. So the next steps, this was approved by the governing board on March 17th. We have already started working with the ag groups to get this word out. It's actually, like I said, it's already working. It's going. And we're meeting with the small ag groups as well to make sure we hit those as well. And I think that's been targeted as we speak as well. So like I said, the word is out, it's going. The program is really oversubscribed now, which is great, which allows us to get more money for the program and going. So the program is going at all times. It's on RFP and it goes. We're funding every day to get new tractors on the road. So for that, I will stop the presentation to be happy to answer any questions any of you may have for me on this exciting change to their program here.
Okay, Dennis beat everybody else, so go ahead.
I think you're muted there. I think you're muted.
Thank you. Good presentation, a lot of good information in there. I like the idea that there's electric tractors on the horizon coming, because we, as you know, the district suspended the program for diesel trucks. So I would assume that they're on the same lines of thinking that they're going to eventually do the same thing with the ag tractors. On the used tractor program, do you have a list of dealers that are participating in that to pass on to people that are interested?
Not at this point in time, but when it gets going, it'll be every dealership in the valley that wants to participate. It's not going to be limited. It'll be dealerships that want to do it as we get going here. We just haven't quite figured out how to do it yet, and the parameters for it. We're kind of talking to make sure we do it correctly. We want to only launch once, right? We don't want to launch it and have to redo it because we missed something. So we're very careful to make sure we do it correctly to answer everybody's questions before we start the thing there.
Okay, and I think the used program is a great way for the smaller farmer to be able to participate in these programs, you know, that can't afford to purchase a new one. So way to think outside the box. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Laura?
I was just excited. I am a smaller farmer. I have 18 acres of pistachios, and I'm excited to learn that it's 80% now, up to 100 acres. So that makes it much more appealing to me to replace equipment. So, and I will be happy to share that information with my peers. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. Every way we can get the word out, we appreciate it. We're trying, but sometimes you miss some people there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. Other questions? Well, I don't see any more hands raised. So thank you so much for those two wonderful presentations. And we look forward to hear more in next meetings.
Terrific. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move to agenda item 11, AB 617 update, and we have Ryan again. Welcome back.
Thank you, Naimeen. Yeah, great news. So I'll start off with talking about Arvin Lamont, our newest community, and the work that we've been doing there. Very excited and a little bit tired, to be honest. We had our first in-person meeting since the COVID, and it really was because of where we were at with the development of the community emission reduction program, and thought it was really important for the community steering committee members to hear the thoughts and questions that their committee members had. And so we had a in-person meeting down there, and we had all the community identified measures that had been recommended, and possible funding amounts, and the community steering committee members went to each of them and provided additional thoughts and input, and provided us additional questions if they had, with the goal, we have another meeting next week to follow up on that. We understood that there were some people that, for varying reasons, couldn't be in attendance, and so definitely didn't want them to miss out on that opportunity as well. And so we are sending out additional materials to them to make sure that they have additional opportunities to also provide input. All with the goal, it's currently slated for the community emission reduction program to be taken to the board by June. So yeah, we're definitely working hard with all the community steering committee members, and I thought last night's event was just fantastic and had a really great turnout from the resident participants, and a lot of positive feedback from the meeting. Can't thank our co-lead Gustavo Aguirre Jr. enough for all the work that he's done in helping to work with the community members, and really helping us, put together agendas, and how we put together presentations to make sure that it's accessible for everybody, that it's understandable by everybody, so that we're all talking with each other and not to or at each other. So it's been a huge benefit, and I thought last night was the culmination of that. This is just a snapshot of the tool that was sent out in preparation. And so we've been working extensively with the committee members on measures that they identified that will help reduce the emissions from sources of concern that they had, in addition to the potential funding amounts. And so they had an opportunity. This was an Excel spreadsheet, and they actually got to adjust numbers and provide input. And in addition to this, they also had the opportunity to provide additional feedback on additional measures. So it was great. They got to take this with them as they went to the different stations, and got to see what the input from the community members were, and some of the adjustments that were made in response to the feedback that we got. Here's a few of the pictures, and like I said, just fantastic turnout and great feedback and a lot of excitement, and that's definitely what motivates the district staff. And it wasn't just us either. We had a lot of city, county representatives there in attendance, as well as the Department of Pesticide Regulations and the County Ag Commissioner, and a lot of others were in attendance. In addition to California Air Resources Board had a lot of staff there to answer any questions. We had numerous translators there at each one of the stations to directly translate any questions that our Spanish-speaking members and public members may have, and providing information to answer those questions. And very exciting. Some of the ongoing progress of the community designed air monitoring network. Once again, thank the students from CART and the research that they did on their end. We're excited that we have the information that's put on each of the community steering committee members' individual air monitoring pages, and a lot of different pollutants are being monitored, and with the goal of trying to understand where we're seeing maybe some elevated levels, with the goal of investigating that, really digging in and seeing what are some of the reasons for that. Because that's where a lot of the benefit of this program is in isolating down where those sources are, which then maybe there's an opportunity to look at additional measures or refinement of existing measures to address some of those things. And so here's just a listing of where we're at. Really excited about the work that we've done with the Stockton Community Steering Committee member. We thought we ran into some issues. We had an initial plan that we were working with the school district, and unfortunately that didn't move forward, but the community steering committee members really stepped up and identified new locations. And so we've been able to relatively quickly been able to launch some air monitoring in that community, and it's all up on the website and being provided to that community now. And in Arvin and Lamont, we're working with them on finalizing the locations. We got great feedback on where they thought locations would benefit the community the most, and now it's a lot of trying to just finalize that with the community steering committee members before going out to the locations, and working with them on any necessary contracts and things of that nature. So as the chair can definitely say that we've made a lot of progress, but there's still a lot of work remaining. Nothing is done. There's a lot of ongoing close collaboration with the community steering committee members. I'm glad to say, one of the things that we've been working very hard in the Fresno Community Steering Committee has been a truck reroute study. And so that was taken to the city of Fresno's council today and was passed. And so they will be moving forward with that. So just, thanks to all the South Central Fresno work on that, and how things can get done working with agencies and community members and the community steering committee members. A lot of work going on to educate and empower residents to get more involved in the community air quality through this program. I think we've probably talked about doing more small mini grants, working with local organizations to share what programs are available, how people can participate in those, and if they aren't able to or don't have a desire to, hopefully to bring back some information to us that we can talk about with the community steering committee members to look to continue to improve and refine those programs. And as I talked about, as far as our community outreach, as restrictions have eased, we've begun participating in community events more in person and doing a lot of that outreach in person, where we've seen a lot of success historically, and just excited to be able to get back and doing more of that, in addition to ongoing virtual participation as well. Speaking of in-person events, very excited about this as well. We have an upcoming lawnmower trade-in event where residents of the South Central Fresno Steering Committee will be able to bring their old used gas powered or I guess diesel powered lawnmower and exchange it directly and walk away with a brand new electric lawnmower. And so this is similar to something that we did in Shafter, where we were able to trade out, I believe it's like 350 units in a day, which is just astounding. We were hoping to have similar levels, but unfortunately, with some of the shortages that we're running into as a result of the COVID pandemic, supply chain, we're seeing a little bit less, but I think it's going to be a great event. So, as you see on here, we're asking people to, in the community, to go to the link and sign up for that, just so that we know, how many units we have, and we want to make sure that we're able to, that they're all taken up, for the event. And so, please feel free to share this information and make people aware of this. And that ends my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments that any of the group members may have. Thank you.
Dennis first again. Go on.
Good presentation. Hey, question for you on the lawnmower exchange program. Are you planning on cycling that around the whole valley?
So we have this is like where we're I think there's always going to be lessons learned, and so we do have a program that's available to outside of the AB 617, which it provides a generous rebate program. The thing that we found in working with the AB 617 communities is one of the barriers to the program was, being able, one of the requirements is you have to take your existing unit to or existing lawnmower to a like salvage yard. And so that was for example, in Shafter, the nearest one was about 20 minutes away. And so, for various reasons that wasn't as accessible. And so working with the committee, they identified this, having an opportunity where they could drop off their existing one and trade it out. You'd see more participation, and lo and behold, that's definitely what we saw. And so, understanding that may be similar in the South Central Fresno community, the decision was, when working with the steering committee, to have a similar type event. But definitely no doors closed, but we do see good participation with our existing program, across the valley.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan. And then is Laura.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. My question, Ryan, is that with the limited supplies, like you had mentioned, I know you wanted to have reservations. Is there like a rain check type of system in place, or is just first come, first serve?
It is a first come, first serve, but this isn't the only event that we're looking to do. The manufacturer has told us that they're hoping to have some more availability later on in the year, in which case, if we see a lot of success here and if it's the desire of the community steering committee, then we would look to hold another event. And the other thing that we heard from the community steering committee, since the South Central community is so big, is looking to have events in different parts of the community. So.
Yes, definitely. I was one of the proponents because some people don't have a large vehicle to take the lawnmower and go to the event. So thank you. And I just want to say that tomorrow we're planning a small tree planting activity with Malik Elementary, and I had coordinated with Jamie's team, so they will be bringing flyers about this event. So there's more people that know about it. I have one question, Ryan. Well, couple. I'm glad to hear that there was a successful in-person meeting at Arvin Lamont. Are there any discussions of bringing back the in-person meetings in other steering committees like Fresno or Chapter or Stockton?
It's definitely something that we're talking with, and we'll kind of poll. And I think it'll be definitely need-based. I think what we want to look to do would be if there's certain things that we think would work better in an in-person environment, then we would make a recommendation to look to have meetings in person. Or, the other thing we're discussing on a periodic basis, like how we may be able to do that. We've definitely heard a lot of feedback from people, in considerable numbers of residents across that they are interested in maintaining virtual as an option as well. So it's definitely going to be kind of balancing all those things and looking at how we do this moving forward. And so yeah, we're definitely going to be talking about this more with each of the individual communities.
Yeah, well, I have a comment and then a last question. So I think that maybe a hybrid could work. I've been part of other committees where most of the meetings continue to be virtual, but for strategic meetings where there's, it will benefit from having more dialogue or discussion, that it's not too conducive during the virtual spaces. They have, brought in the in-person meetings too. So maybe thinking of maybe quarterly we would meet in person and monthly we continue with virtual, something like that could be an option to explore. And then my question, before I open it up to other EJAG members, I received a notification of a public workshop on community protection funding that is happening on May 16th. Can you say more about this? What is this funding? And I believe it's funding that is for other parts of the region, not really the selected communities.
Yeah, so the community air protection funds that we receive, and we talked about this a little bit in the community steering committee meetings, but it's available to all low income and what's defined by the state as low income or disadvantaged communities. And so wanting to hear from members of those communities of things that they may like to see come to their areas. There are definitely some limitations on how those funds can be spent right now. There's guidelines that have to be followed. But one of the things that we're hearing from the state is how the benefits of AB 617 can be brought to communities outside of the ones selected. And so wanting to hear from people on what things they would like to see. And so it's definitely sharing about the funding, but definitely want to, it's more of what I would call a listening session.
Okay, thank you. So I was asking because, like, for example, is this something that I could share not only with other organizations, but community members who meet that criteria
Absolutely.
of living in a disadvantaged community?
Please
Okay.
share broadly, and we want as much feedback as we can possibly get.
Great. Okay, I'll stop now, and I
Thank you
will
for
see-
bringing that up. Yes, that should have been on my APCO comment, so I apologize, and thankfully I have you to be a great reminder.
Anytime. Any other questions for Ryan about the AB 617 update? I see none. Michelle, are there any questions? Anyone on the public?
Through the chair, there are no members of the public present at the meeting.
Okay. Well, we're gonna continue to our next agenda item, and Tom or any others, this is to bring suggestions for future agenda items for our meetings. So you mentioned something, Tom, and anybody else that would like to suggest anything? Ned, do you want to go ahead?
Well, I just had a question. At one point, we were working on a revised mission statement, and I guess I lost track of where we were with that.
You mean our work plan?
No, don't remember there was a mission statement that we had that didn't mention health effects, and they were going to revise it to ensure that our mission statement, you know, for the EJAG here, had hopefully as the most prominent goal an improvement in human health and measure the human health elements of these measures that we undertake for air pollution. And I thought it was referred for revision and we were going to get another draft of the mission statement. I just don't remember what happened to it.
Yeah. So thank you for that reminder. I was going to bring it up right now. So it was not really only to the mission statement. It was that I think you were the one who noticed that part of the mission statement of the Air District is to be a public health agency. And your comment was that the way that our actual work plan is written doesn't incorporate that, doesn't say how on our role as EJAG we can help that part of the mission of the Air District. And we form a subcommittee where I'm part of that it's going to work on that. And we had one meeting, we met an hour before our February meeting, and we said that we will continue doing it. I was supposed, I take complete ownership of this, that I was going to create a draft just so that we can make some progress and bring it to you for review. Unfortunately, these past couple of months have been very hectic and I wasn't able to complete it. So when we were talking about the agenda for today, I asked Michelle not to include it because there was really no progress made. So my fault, I apologize, but I make full commitment that I will work on that and we can include that so that we can, not only you can take a look at it beforehand, and then we can discuss at our next meeting. So thank you for that. And definitely, again, we will, that is part of our next meeting agenda. So thank you, Ned. I see Richard has his hand up, and then Tom, if you want to add the item that you had mentioned before or not, Richard?
Yeah, I'd like to see what the Air Board's take is on some of these proposed or pending bills that are coming on up. One of them is AB 285, which is going to raise the gas tax $2.85 in addition to what it already is, to bring it over $3 to force people not to drive. In my opinion, that is racist. That is going against people of colors. That also going against disadvantaged communities. But I understand the scope, but I'd like to see what the Air Board's thoughts on some of these pending legislation. Even I know they're not going to influence them, but maybe we can get educated so we can influence them.
Okay, so you are asking that we get some report or position on the Air District. And can you repeat the name of the number of the bill again, please?
It's just an example, AB 285, I believe it is. There's others that are out there too. I don't want Air Board's position. I want Air Board's analysis.
Analysis. Okay, sorry
Okay,
for that.
I don't think they're going to have a position, but I think their analysis will help us form our opinions that we can try to affect it one way or the other.
Okay, so presentation on the analysis that the Air District staff has of some bills related or that could have an impact on air quality. Would that be a proper way of describing your suggestion?
Yes.
Okay, noted.
And I don't know if your airborne staff there can tell us if you can't.
Sure, that's a great question. So anyone on the staff can comment on this if this is something that the Air District staff could do?
It is only me at this moment in the room, and I am unsure. So that will be something I will have to get back to everyone on.
Well, we will add it to the list of suggestions with the caveat that we will hear back from the Air District staff. Is this something that we're able to discuss or they are able to discuss?
Yeah, that'll be definitely something that we can work with Chair Martinez on.
Great, thank you, Ryan. Tom, would you like to bring up the suggestion you made before or not?
Yeah, the suggestion was if other EJAG members are interested is hearing more about the American Lung Association annual report. I don't know how many folks are aware that they put out an annual report and kind of what's in it. It's pretty straightforward. You could also just read their report on their website. I think the one interesting thing is how because of the metric that they use from actually the federal government on what like a metropolitan area is, that there used to be a Merced Modesto area, and it's now part of basically the Bay Area kind of mega metro area, includes Stockton, Modesto, and Merced now. So you don't see Modesto on the list, but you see this Bay Area region that's actually gone up on the list because it now includes part of the Northern Valley. That was a kind of one interesting, well, not just the only interesting thing, but one interesting thing that you might not get out of just looking at the report that's changed, but it does break it down by county. So if you don't see the cities on there, you can go and see the counties. But yeah, I just thought folks might think that was interesting. I know we also talked about a presentation on wildfires as well, and I was going to actually look into some folks that might be able to give a presentation like that, but I kind of forgot about it the last month or so, so I can also look into that.
Okay, so a presentation on the report of the American Lung Association of their list of cities, and then the other one was wildfires. So we had a presentation, very good presentation by one of our members last time on the effects on water. So you're now recommending on air. Is that what you're saying, Tom?
As far as the American Lung Association one, or the
wildfire presentation.
Oh yeah, more related to air and the causes. I noted that, you know, it often comes up in our conversations when we get to a particular issue because it is such a big issue, and sometimes we discuss, you know, the various causes and what are the best steps to be taken to move forward to mitigate wildfires and the effects. And so we talked about, you know, reaching out to, you know, some either scientific agencies or institutions that would give kind of a, you know, unbiased, just, you know, science-based reasons for, you know, why the wildfires are happening and are getting so much larger and so much more destructive, and the effects on the air and health in general.
Okay, noted. Thank you. Any other recommendations? I think we have several really good recommendations. I do have one more to add. So I mentioned earlier about the Clean Air Centers pilot that their district will be implementing, and I think since the RFP closes in May, it would be good to hear an update of what was the response, how many applications were received, and so on. I believe that the idea is to get these contracts executed as soon as possible so that these organizations that will receive the funding are ready to have these devices before the wildfire season starts. Hopefully it doesn't start, but just to be prepared. So I think that we always get an update on other incentive programs. So I would recommend that we hear on this particular pilot. If it's too soon for our next meeting, at least on the following one, so that we can get a sense of what was the response. And it's closely related to what Tom just recommended, because this is a response to the wildfire situation that was mentioned. Okay. Are there any, well, we're gonna first hear if there are any public comments, Michelle?
Through the chair, there are no members of the public present at this meeting.
Thank you. Any EJAG member comments?
I'll just add real quick, just to kind of put those two issues together that I brought up. I mentioned earlier how the American Lung Association report, mentioned how wildfires were a big cause for the PM going up, even though ozone had gotten better over the last year. And just to emphasize that they're looking at it, not as to that it's a wildfire, that it's caused by this or that, but just purely the health effects on it, and that's where their scores come from. So it's kind of one of those issues where it's like, it's the air district doesn't necessarily have a lot of say over how wildfires are stopped from happening, but it is just purely giving the health results of that, and that's where the the scores for the counties and stuff. So we do have to just address it, no matter who kind of has the say over it or the resources to do something about it. And it could be kind of a uniting issue that a lot of different stakeholders get on the same page about, and because we have to, no matter what the cause, and we have to do something about the health effects that it's causing in the valley, especially. So just wanted to kind of say how those two issues kind of bridge together, the report and the wildfires.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, Naomi.
No, go ahead, Ryan.
No, I just wanted to thank Tom for bringing up that issue, and that is something that we definitely work closely with the land management agencies on how to do treat a lot of that land to get rid of a lot of that fire load, because it definitely, in addition to the health impacts, there's a lot of safety impacts as well. Firefighter safety issues with these fires, and some of the way that the fire behavior has changed. It definitely poses more serious risks, and so we work extensively with land management agencies. We just met with all of them yesterday and talked about their plans for the upcoming season and how we can work closely to with the goal of hopefully avoiding a lot of these wildfire events.
Yeah, I also want to just mention that on that note, that I think that it would be extremely important for the Air District to, I know that you guys have done a great job of, informing the community, and through having your others people, and also issuing alerts, but maybe something that is also more, I don't know how to put it, but stronger, and maybe a better coordination with health officials. For example, I was very surprised and concerned that the first weekend of October, when we had still the Sequoia fire going on, and there were ashes coming down in Fresno. That was one of the worst air quality days that we had last year as a result of that wildfire. That was a weekend when they were having the California Classic, meaning that on Saturday, they closed the freeway for people to ride their bikes for miles, 100 miles, 50 miles. And then on Sunday morning, they had people running a half marathon. And I know it's that people's choice to do that, but I think that there has to be a mechanism for the public, the people who can make an informed decision if that's in their best interest for their health, to do that in such a you know, a day with high levels of air quality. I think that you know, in those type of things, it's like to me, it's a public emergency that you know, we need to make sure that people know what are the risks. And you are a runner
Yeah,
like me, so you know that we need. We're educated, but not
I know.
everybody is.
Trust me. Yeah, I mean, in addition to, you know, just how devastating it is for, you know, people with pre-existing health conditions and you know, sensitive. Yeah, I mean, it had huge impacts on just how people live their daily lives. You know, I definitely did not go out and did not enjoy any running during that period of time.
Well, any additional comments from our members? Okay, well, if not, we're gonna finish our meeting very, very early. So we just need a volunteer. Okay, well, let me ask, Michelle, do we need to come and present at the CSC or not?
Through the chair, no, these are just tentative standing items, and at this point, there is not a plan to have a presentation in May at either the board or CAC meetings.
Okay, well, therefore, we are done with our agenda items. Reminder that our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, June 23rd at 5:30. It will continue to be a virtual meeting. So with that, we're gonna be able to adjourn our meeting being 7:11 p.m. So you have almost 20 minutes back of your lives. Thank you, everyone.